We're live.
Hello, everyone. This is Nisha T. Mochan, CEO of Diversity Geek. Woo! Guys, I am so excited because I had no idea we were going to have such a wealth of guests here tonight. I am so blessed and honored to have so many fantastic fandom gurus, experts, and just all around fantastically wonderful people joining us today to have this conversation about the benefits of embracing your inner geek. How fandom has made us better people in general, which, 40, 50 years ago, that was a ludicrous concept to embrace your geek side. Back then, being a nerd and being a geek was just a subject of bullying. And that is just something we have to get rid of, that concept and that philosophy. So the more we come together like this as groups who are willing to share our passions and share our experiences, the more we're able to turn those philosophies upside down. That's what we need to do. And I thank everyone for being here with us today. I am going to ask everyone, first of all, I'm with diversitygeek.org. If anyone wants to find us, we're going to put up all the links later on through the day. We have a wonderful moderator who's also helping us out on the panel, and that's Miss Melanie Dean from Pieces of Melee. And she's going to be helping us to get all the links into our live feed. So if anyone wants to send all your information, we'll be letting everyone know how to find all of our guests. So without any more delay, because I am so sorry we're running behind, we are going to go ahead and introduce all our guests. I am tongue-tied right now because we have a surprise guest who I could not have imagined was going to show up today. So I'm going to breathe. I'm going to take a breath. So basically, everyone here does know that the Diversity Geek philosophy is that embracing your fandom passion is a credible source of being able to establish positive self-identity. And if we just, imbibe that in our children from a very early stage in life, we're going to change a global perspective on self-care and mental wellness. And everyone here, I know, agrees with me, right? Absolutely. So we're going to chat about that. I'm going to let everyone from I'm going to go that way. Okay, so to my right, I believe, is Mackenzie, and then we'll go all the way down if that's okay. You want to just introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. Well, hello chat. I am Mackenzie Flohr. I am the writer of the Right of Wand series, which is a young adult fantasy. And it is really recommended for those who love Doctor Who and Harry Potter.
Melanie?
Okay, because I was like, but you kind of introduced me. Anyway, hi guys, I'm Melanie Dean. I am from Pieces of Melee. I'm an artist, a portrait artist. You see me a lot at Comic Cons. Now these kind, or the virtual ones, rather than the ones in the Southeast, like you normally would see. But yeah, portrait artist, fandom artist. You can see some of my stuff behind me, and that's my shtick.
Javier?
What's up, people? My name is Javier Winnick Cruz. I am the author and illustrator of the A Reason to Smile book series about a little Puerto Rican girl from the city. Very positive story, something good for your kids, something good for you. And I try to bring stuff to the world that makes everybody happy.
And a fantastic artist, just saying. Okay.
Thank you.
Miss Latisha?
Hi, everybody. My name is Latisha. I am a writer, screenwriter, teacher, and diversity educator. So what I do in bringing kind of all these things in with my geekdom is to talk about how the things that we're excited about and things that we love are also ways to bring things to bring each other together, and also allows us to delve deeply into issues that can be a little challenging. So I'm super excited to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
You're so welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. And this is Ada Zarate.
I wandered here by accident. I am surrounded by talented people. I am a comic book artist from Mexico. I'm a webcomic artist right now. I write two webcomics, one about a team of medium or seers who play against baseball legends and all the baseball ghosts. that are in the world because they don't go to heaven because there are no baseball fields in heaven. So they stay here to keep playing. And the other one is Building Blocks, which is about a poor guy who discovers that he's the superintendent of the cosmos. He has to go and get rent from God. He's always late. He has to fix the problems between the fourth woman of the apocalypse and so on. I would show you my art, but I have a mess behind me, so I went for my portfolio. So this is my art.
Very cool.
And I am also a comic book translator. I am also a language teacher, and I organize panels like this one, although this one is not organized by me, for Comic-Con. I specialize in Latin American movies, Latin American dubbing, and Latin American comics.
Oh. Yeah. Wow. Okay. That's a mouthful, but that was amazing. Great people. And our very wonderful guest, Ms. Vilele. Can you tell everyone
I feel so jammy. I wasn't even supposed to be here, so thank you so much for having me. I was actually on a panel with Legend of the Travelling TARDIS a few hours ago, and I was very kindly invited to come and join you guys today, so I'm really blessed for that. My name is Velile Shabalala, but don't worry, you can call me Val. Those who don't want to speak to me today on the panel. But I played Visita in The Next Doctor, which is the Doctor Who Christmas special in 2008. So I basically do, the conventions and whatnot. I was on the Legend of the Travelling TARDIS, speaking to some lovely people on there, and then I got invited here. So hi.
Man, we laughed so much in that panel, and I think that is just like overflowed, and it just kept going. It was crazy.
So much fun.
Yes, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I'm sorry, I was taking 2 seconds to make sure everything was shared out because we obviously, the link changed a little bit from what we were originally doing. So I think everything is good. So what I want to do is talk about, first of all, that's not the only thing that you're known for, because I know you've been on quite a few other things as well. So I know that even in Call the Midwife, I meant to tell you because I actually watched that show.
Oh, I love that show. So it was the first Black mum Call the Midwife, which I'm so proud of.
It's mind-blowing for people who are not used to seeing that level of diversity, especially with the cultural paradigm, because it was a social and cultural paradigm shift. Mm-hmm. That's like super cool to be able to see representation on the screen in that way.
So I want to ask something really quick, like seeing, presentation of people of diverse backgrounds in period dramas specifically is always like,
I know.
We 100 years ago. Who knew? I was like, what? It's crazy, and it's really it's refreshing, and it's a move. It's a move that really we need to be able to see more. That we need to be able to see that because we've been here. Everyone's been here. Mm-hmm. So everyone has telling the story of history. So it's really wonderful to be able to see that.
One of my favorite lines is in Psych at one point saying, "Oh, is it a period drama?" I don't remember seeing. It was something about whether or not there was Black representation or just any, people of color in representation. And I remember Dule Hill does this line, goes, "What, were we not invented yet?" Yeah. And it's just like,
exactly.
Thank you. People were around. It's just entertainment. So, yeah, that was my favorite line ever. Like, were we not invented yet? I'm like,
that's so good.
Well, hey, you were invented a long time ago.
That's one of my main arguments when I argue with people here down in Mexico, because we are so used to American media that I have people who are, well, we are not white. I am very pale. I am one of the palest Mexicans you are going to meet. But they go, oh, but, why are there people of color in that period piece? And by people of color, they mean Latino people, like Mexican people. And I go like, you do realize what you are talking about, right? I mean, you remember that we were here before the Spaniards, right? But
perfect segue. Oh my God. Oh my God, that's so perfect. I've been to rely on all of you because y'all have the best sense of humor, and I tend to be a very dry comedian. So let's see how this works here. And it's a pretty heavy topic, but at the same time, we need to make it fun, you know? The reason we're all sitting here today is because we're all geeks. We're all nerds. We all came to the field of art and fantasy and gaming and even to medicine. And from my point of view, was because of a journey I took as a child moving through fandoms that really, really, really impressed on me, my own moral and ethical principles. And it really gave me a love for something. So, I always, Doctor Who, everyone knows for me, was a huge reason for why I went into medicine. Yeah, I always knew the doctor wasn't a doctor. I got that. I always understood that. But I also always understood that medicine healing from that doctor's perspective was more about the social journey. It was more about the holistic journey. So while the medicine's important, the holism of the health of the healing I got from a child was so much more important. And so it just imprinted on me in that way. So shows like that, and then watching, something like Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, for instance, it really, it impacted on me so much. So even though I tried to not do medicine, because I did, I still ended up doing it. So here I am, a family practice provider in mental health and in primary health care. And I bring it to my work every day of my existence. Like, my patients know who I am. They know I'm going to spout out Star Wars, Avatar, Airbender. They know I'm going to be talking about, oh my God, like I was on a paddle with Ada Zarate, and this is what we talked about. Oh, it happens, guys. I talk about Mackenzie. People know about Right of Bonds. I'm like selling it all the time.
Because you're a good doctor, that's why.
And then, like, oh, you guys have to make sure your kids read A Reason to Smile. You got to do it. It's so important. I'm so but it took a long time for me to get there. So what I want to know from all of you is, looking at the questions that I kind of gave you earlier on, in terms of your own journey. So let's go at a couple of them, and anyone, you can choose which questions you want to answer. And so what we did, Val, is we asked everyone to kind of bring to the table a fandom that's like really had a huge impact on them. So everyone actually gave me different ones, which worked out. And no one here actually knows each other's fandoms. So it's going to be pretty interesting when we have the conversation. Yes, everyone gave me a separate one. And then I can't wait to hear yours. So it's going to be super cool. So for me, you just heard me answer very quickly my question. How has fandom influenced your growth, your personal journey in terms of your career choice or your life? So I know it's a pretty wide question. So does anyone want to kind of give me that first, an answer on that one? Okay.
Well, I always knew I wanted to be a comic book artist. My family jokes that, well, I was born not with a pencil in my hand, but I grabbed the pencil from the doctor as soon as I was out. But my main fandom is anime in general. Because when I was a little girl here in Mexico, there was this show called Remy. Well, in English it's called Nobody's Boy, which is based on a novel by a French author called Hector Malot. And it's about the most suffering boy in the universe because he's an orphan who gets sold. Well, first his cow gets sold. Then he gets sold to a traveling actor. Then the traveling actor dogs die, eaten by wolves. Then the monkey dies. There is a monkey, and the monkey dies. Then the traveling actor dies, and that's only half of the series. That boy, everything happens to him. But the traveling actor, Mr. Vitalis, all the time was telling him, no matter what happens, you cannot call yourself a man until you manage to survive by yourself. And no matter what happens, you must always walk forward. And that was like my motto when I was growing up. Then I found Knights of the Zodiac, which I completely adored. And that's when I decided that I wanted to do a magazine about animation. And I met all the voice actors for the Knights of the Zodiac. And then I got the chance to talk to the voice actor who did the Spanish voice to Mr. Vitalis, who also happened to be the Mexican voice for Superman.
Ah.
And not only he uses his normal voice for those roles, but we clicked because he had a daughter my age. This is important because next year I am going to do the test to get into the public college in Mexico. It's a big test. Everybody takes it, but only like 10% of people passes it. And I haven't passed it the year before when I was going to study graphic design. So this year I was going like, well, I'm going to put like literature as my major and whatever. I didn't study. I was going forward. And I am in the line to the test. And I hear behind me, I kid you not, Mr. Vitalis' voice asking me, "Did you study, little girl?" I turned around, and it was him because his daughter was in the same line. And I go, "Yes." And he said, "Well, I'm very proud of you. Remember, you have to walk forward for your education. I will be very disappointed if you don't get in the college." I was terrified answering the test. Not because of my mother, not because of my father, but because I could not disappoint Mr. Vitalis. I passed.
Somebody put the fear on you.
The proper professional magazine, and we were making another interview with him, and he said, "Oh yes, I am so proud of you," and he hugged me, and he unfortunately has passed away, but every single time I start a new project, every single time I have doubts of myself, I just put on the DVD of that anime to hear his voice telling me, "Remember, always walk forward."
Is that the same? Okay. Later on, I want you to talk to them about the professor and the LOTR connection.
Oh no, that's a different one. That is a different one.
Oh my God. Okay, when we make sure it happens before we end this panel. You guys got to hear this one, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
That is mostly, and since then, anime. I have other fandoms that I love more than anime now because nowadays modern anime doesn't do it for me that much. I love Doctor Who, I love Supernatural, I love Star Wars, obviously. But that moment, the fact that I can put almost every single one of my professional growth at something I did because I started doing a fanzine in Mexico before that was before that was a thing, because I watched Otaku no Video. And they were talking about the doujinshis. And I literally said, well, if they can do it with photocopies and that, why can't I? And I called a friend and I told her, "Hey, do you want to do this with me?" And she said, "Yeah, sure." 25 years later, I'm here. So that's why anime is my fandom.
I love not all forms of anime. We've had this discussion, and it's not because they're not great. I don't always connect to all of them. So I'm going to jump the question a little bit because I want someone else to, of course, answer about how has fandom influenced your journey. But real quickly, why do you think, anime has really, really, truly connected across generational divides. I would say probably at least 3 generations, if not more. So what do you think is this connective model in the anime style that has really, really, made kids really feel like they had something to identify with?
I'll take a stab at it. So one thing interesting I find about anime is that anime as a genre, which is of course very wide, it's also very tiered in a way. Especially I feel like, and granted I'm only speaking from the American perspective, but there's kind of, when you get into it at first, you hit kind of like those like basic anime, like fundamental education. So you're talking about like your Sailor Moon and your Dragon Ball Z and, kind of like what's kind of easily available. And if you stay there, that's cool. you know, and that kind of means that you're kind of in this interest like cartoon realm, and that at least when I was also include Spider-Man and the X-Men series, and you're like watching all together. So you can have like this like level one, you know, of storyline telling, which is still interesting, but you don't necessarily have to go beyond it. But when you do, it's like the world opens up, and then you get to learn about, you know, dubbing and subtitles, and you get to know about like, you know, this like kind of like, you know, this version of the high school focused anime, and then you have the fantasy one, and then you have this thing, and then you have the manga. Like it's like the world explodes.
It's world building.
Yeah, you get to see all these different levels. Then what's interesting also when you get to that next level and you get to compare more advanced, if you will, anime. So things like Wolf's Rain or even Big O, Outlaw Stars kind of in the middle. You get these really complex stories. Where it, like in like, so for me, one of my kind of gateways was Gundam Wing on Toonami. Folks who know will know. But you had teenagers.
Your age.
I know I am. You have these teenagers who are saving the world with these giant machines, which, like, if you think about kind of basic Voltron, they go beyond that, but not too much. But I'm watching these kids and they're going through trauma, and this is really disturbing, and I'm worrying about their mental health and are they okay? And you know, they may be considering suicide, but you're not quite sure. So it all of a sudden gets really complex. And when you are, I feel like, and for me, that introduction, that range was like between like 11 and 14. And I feel like when you're in that age where your emotions are also very heightened, and you just like, it almost like, oh my gosh, I can connect to these huge things that people are going through, and it's in a cartoon, which most American cartoons up until very recently didn't really do that. It was like, if it's animated, we're going to keep your emotions really basic, and we're going to keep the storyline really basic. Whereas, like, as far as anime, it was like, oh wow, this is animated, and we're taking it seriously, and we're really going into these like deep ideas. Which, again, since America doesn't really take animation really so seriously, it's easier for people to kind of dismiss it and not really be like, no, this is just as deep, if not more, than your nighttime drama on TV.
Absolutely, I 1000% agree with all of that, and I know Mackenzie is a really strong anime fan. Wow, we were going very strong anime here. This was fantastic. No, because some of my most formative, series that I've Voltron. Just so you understand, I'm extremely passionate about Voltron. I watched from the original series all the way to the new one, and I will watch anything else that they bring back to me about it. Almost anything Gundam, because I'm a massive Gundam fan. I'm a 54-year-old woman. I'm not supposed to like these things. You have to know that. So it's really interesting to hear you talk, because I feel as if you're talking about me, but I'm a different generation. Does that make sense though? Because, we have to, I guess, traverse generations per se, because we don't just exist where we're born, right? We live and we grow and we experience. So from the teaching perspective, I think maybe that's where my philosophy is coming from, the fact that we're all growing. So therefore, we're always going to learn something new, or therefore we have something else to learn. It never stops, right? It's going to be this continuum.
I want to say something about the generation thing, because it's very funny. I am a third generation geek from my dad's side. My grandmother was the original Uhura spokesperson. She loved the Star Trek to pieces.
Yep.
My dad was a Star Wars fan, and I was this close to be named Leah.
Oh.
However, my mother hates all geek stuff. Her favorite book of all time is the book that was based on Remy. So we bonded over the animation. So it's a very interesting thing. And now my niece, who is 8 years old, she loves superhero girls. She adores My Little Pony. She likes her new jam. and she connects more with me than with her dad, because her dad is a traditional 80s jock.
Yeah.
You have seen Revenge of the Nerds, the alpha guy from the fraternity. That is my brother. Before my niece was born, he said, if you ever mention anything geeky around my daughter, you will never see her again. That didn't work out, because my niece fell in love with Disney when she was 2 years old. So my brother, who is the best dad, got her all the Disney princesses dresses. So now my 8-year-old niece is a cosplayer. She loves geeky stuff. She calls me to correct her dad over geeky stuff. And she told me that I am not a grown up.
Because I mean, correct me.
Cosplayers are the biggest geek because they've got to go so deep into the geekdom to be able to make it work and make it relatable that they got to know their stuff.
No, but it's like, oh no. You know, Dad, don't buy me anything. Ask my aunt what you should give me for my birthday. She knows.
We have a comment from Shirley Burton who's listening in, and she said, for me, being able to personally connect to a character has given me hope when I felt down. However, it's also important not to revolve my life around the character and distinguish fantasy from reality. I love that concept. Thank you so much, Shirley, for that. And I love your next concept about Japanese anime as well. So let me step back, because I actually that's part of one of the questions that we have coming up, exactly what you talked about there. Let me go quick. So Val, what is your favorite fandom, and how has that fandom influenced you? Because I knew we learned a little about your journey and your passion for theater and for acting, and how you knew it was what was right for you. So did you have something in it influence you that really drove you towards that passion?
Yeah. As I was saying before in the previous panel that I did, I'm a fan of I can't pick one particular series in this answer, if that's okay.
Oh,
but,
whatever you want.
Thank you. Anything Whoopi Goldberg is in was just. I remember when I first saw her, and I just thought she was amazing. In I can't remember if it's Jumping Jack Flash I saw first before Ghost. It must have been Jumping Jack Flash. And if then.
Yeah, for real, that was a great movie.
It's absolutely brilliant. I love that film so much, and it was just so nice to just to see someone that's a bit like me. I was like, oh my gosh, she looks a bit like me. She's like dark skin and she's got all these wacky expressions, and it's really important, I think, for you know, I've got a mixed race family. I've got, you know, my brother-in-law's white. I've got mixed race nephews. I'm very proud of that. But and I think that we all is important as each other. I believe in equality and stuff, but it is also very important, I think, for young people and or children to be able to look up to someone and be able to relate to someone that inspires them. And so for me, that's when I just started following her. I always wanted to perform anyway, but she's always just been someone that I'm just so in awe of, and she can just do it all. You know, you watch her in something like Ghost, where she's hilarious, and then you watch like when I saw The Color Purple, I was just like, this woman's just too much. So hopefully that answers the question. So with me, it's not so much. There are series that I am fans of and films and whatnot, but for me, it's her.
Well, it's fandom. That's it. That's absolutely fantastic. Till this living day, I still watch Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She's cornered respect in terms of her own social strata, her own personal philosophy, and people will listen to it because she's earned that respect.
Exactly.
You know,
wise lady as well. What she was talking about, she's been doing posts about the whole BLM movement and whatnot, and she's just made such valid points that I completely agree with. So
I think
she's an EGOT winner as well. So she has been awarded the echelon of 4 different disciplines, she's won the highest award.
It's amazing. She's
And
just.
I bet that if you saw her in person, you would geek out.
I
Oh,
would make
So
myself.
2 years ago, Christmas, I took my mom on a date to Disney Springs because I said, "Let me take you out, Mom. Let's have some fun at Disney Springs and see the trees, etc. And I'll take you in the Christmas store." And lo and behold, we walked up, and my mom goes, "Isn't that Whoopi Goldberg?" And I was like, "Wow, Mom, you actually got that right. That is Whoopi Goldberg." And she was standing there shopping, getting her little ornaments and stuff. And I was like, "I am so sorry because I see you're in your space, and normally I would say nothing. But my mom wants to meet you. She wants to tell you something." And my mom was like, and I videotaped it, so I do have it. My mom was like, she was like, "I just want to let you know you've really made a great impact on the world, and I really love and respect you. You just need to keep doing what you're doing." And I was like, my mom, whoa. That was such a transformative experience. So yes, I did meet her. I just was like in awe. So
Yeah.
I didn't want to nerd. It was her personal time. So, but you made a great point by saying, and I want very much for the audience and everyone to understand that fandom is not specifically something in the entertainment world per se. It's anything that, and anyone that sparks the creative, imaginative nature within your soul. It's that thing that creates that positive impact and influence in it. So if it's Whoopi Goldberg, it's Whoopi Goldberg. If it's Martin Luther King, it's Martin Luther King. If it's, Rosa Parks, if it's your favorite scientist, Madame Curie or Nightingale, everyone has had an impact on someone and then leads them towards something, a journey in their life. So I always want to make that distinction. So people always think it's about the other things, and it's not. It's about anything that positively influences you.
And this is where I could tell that anecdote you want me to tell about the professor.
I do want you to. I'm going to 1 second, if because this was going to come up with the next conversation. So I wanted to, because I know that Mackenzie real quick wanted to jump in and give us a. She prepared something that answers the second question. Am I correct?
Yes.
I think so. Do you want to go over that, and then you're going to toggle right after that, and then we'll go on with Javier and Melanie, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Refresh my memory. What was the second question?
So we just kind of went into what fandom has the most impact, but right now we had a few people talk. Everyone is with that one. I definitely want everyone to give us their feedback. But yours was the examples of story arcs, character challenges that have resounded with you and helped guide you through your struggles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was really the Doctor Who, where the Doctor had lost Gallifrey. For me, growing up, I really did not have a community. I didn't really have a clan. I was an outcast. I'm really honestly considered now still an outcast. I don't really hang out with anybody. I just pretty much stay in my house. That's pretty much what I do. Don't do anything else. And I really felt for myself that with the Doctor losing Gallifrey and her people, it really touched me because I felt like I finally had somebody I could look up to and I belonged somewhere, that I wasn't alone in this world, maybe I am an outcast, maybe I am a loner, but that's okay. I am who I am. And that's the Doctor really helped me be able to accept that. Mm-hmm. And it's really because of Doctor Who, which is why I am an author. It was something I never really considered to be an actual career. I kind of considered it to be more of a hobby. But it turned out that by coincidence that there was a exhibit, and I tell this story quite often because a lot of people ask, well, how did you come up with this brilliant story of the Right of Wands? And especially because of how in our world today with COVID-19, the Right of Wands originally was published in 2017. And it just by, you could say coincidence, foreshadowing, however you want to do it, is that the main character has to deal with a plague. And it has very similar to COVID-19. He is hit drastically. He loses pretty much, you can say, everything. But yet he has that personal growth story that he is able to come across what's happened, that loss that he has, and be able to become who he's going to be, which I won't say who he's going to end up being because that would blow the whole entire series.
We can't say. Oh my gosh. I could say, but I'm not gonna. It's okay. I think that you're talking sometimes about and I guys, I told you all have to keep it light because when I get like this, I get heavy. So y'all keep the humor coming for me, please. Listen, I think that that's exactly the point, right? You go through the heaviest moment and the heaviest experience, and you feel weighted down by it, right? And then you go through something that just helps you to find that light, I guess, through it. And then that moment of humor, that's just like, yeah, no, that's brilliant. That just lights me up. That lights up my life and makes me feel better about who I am.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like Matt Smith's doctor does that all the time.
Yes, and for those who have never read The Right of Wands or familiar with it, the main character, yes, Myrta McKinnon is written for Matt Smith, and I am currently writing the pilot for the Right of Wands series and hoping that he will play the main character either after all this is done and over with, either as a anime, and if it's anime, it must be Japanese anime.
Val, that's the series I'm trying to get you booked for, Val. I'm getting you a part. I already cast her in your fantasy series. Val's cast. I already know who she's playing. It's not my book. It's not my screenplay, but I did it already.
Everybody's out here.
You're all British. So every character is British. So and her name sounds like a spell, so I can already see she's a witch from
I'm saying. Yeah, you see? I was right. That's exactly who I was thinking. You guys have to read these books. But I did them on audiobook because for me, with my dyslexia, a lot of times audiobook works better for me. And I have to tell you, the experience of those on audiobook are fantastic. That in and of itself is something we can chat about today from the ASMR perspective. Like a fandom, especially with you working with special needs children and me working with behavioral modification, I know how that has helped the kids that I've worked with in the past.
Massively. It's so important for. I think I might have said what I also do when we hadn't gone live yet. So just for those who are not sure, I also, as a jobbing actress, obviously, I need fills in when I'm not filming or on stage or whatnot. So I have been for the last few years been working with special needs kids, and quite a few of them come from they don't have the most ideal home lives. So obviously then we dealing with behaviour, as I'm sure Nisha you understand. But one thing that I can definitely say is the difference, not the difference so much, but the importance and the difference it does make in their lives when they do have that thing that they're into. A lot of them are into anime, some but whatever it is, or an actor or a film, and I can just see it's just so lovely. It's a lovely way to connect with them, for them to connect with each other if they've got something in common, and it's just so lovely for them to have that. So yeah, being a fan of anything is just brilliant, which is why I love what you guys do on him as well.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate you. So we're having some, we are getting comments. The way that they're coming in, you actually are not seeing them here. For some reason, most of them are going to the watch party. So I'll read them as we go along, unless I can find a way to get them over, Melanie. So I will try.
It would have to be in chat. So I'm sorry if I'm not responding. Nothing is showing up.
I am trying to multitask because normally I'm on the other side doing this, but with me leading the panel, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm leading this panel. I kind of can't be doing that at the same time.
From a watch party, we love you, and but unfortunately, StreamYard's limitation is that we can only pull the live. It can only pull from either the feed from the Diversity Geek page. If you're watching from the Diversity Geek YouTube, comment on those two. We'll see it. We can pull them on live. Also, if you're watching on Mackenzie's Twitch account, we can also pull those comments live.
So that would be fantastic. Everyone who's
Gotta get that
responding, exactly, everyone who's responding in the watch parties, jump over to one of those three and then go ahead and respond in there. That way we can see your comments. That would be like fantastic. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because they are coming.
Please be nice to Nightbot. That way he doesn't get in a bad mood.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This is so amazing. Oh, I love you guys so much.
So I met Javier because we used to work together, and we were both teaching assistants for in elementary school. So we were. It was every day, all day, and one of the things we were in charge of was recess. So if you imagine 75 kids and us trying to make sure that they have fun and don't murder each other in the 30-minute playtime. I bring that up because activating kids' passions was a huge part of making that work and us connecting with the kids and us working with them. The fact that there seemed to be like a new version of Pokemon and DBZ every year, and like it kept me current, so I was a cool adult, which was awesome.
Exactly. Exactly.
Also, two stories from that experience. One, I remember I was working with one of the teachers, and speaking of fandom, the kids were reading Harry Potter. But it was third grade, so it was above so many of their reading levels.
Yeah.
But
We had a lot of kids that were really into that. Percy Jackson,
right.
Yeah, and so many people come to me because they've read Harry Potter and they want the next Harry Potter type of thing. They're like, well, I don't know what to get my kids. Can I start on your series? And I'm like, well, of course, it's going to be just as many books. But it's like what you're talking about. For in my case, my series is not one that's really kid friendly-ish because it has some of the adult themes.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, well, really cool because the teacher included Harry Potter, but not only were the kids and it was like one chapter, but so the kids were reading it all together like a group read, but she also had the audiobook going on at the same time. So kids needed to follow it. And so I just saw that and thought that was so cool because it was a way to keep everybody included, keep everybody excited about the story. And even if you weren't actually like reading the words, you got a sense of what that story was. And so that was just really, really cool. And then another kid, I won't say his name, but he's awesome. At the time that we were working there, Pokemon cards had been illegal, I guess. They didn't allow them.
They would get in trouble if they brought their Pokemon cards.
They did until one kid wrote a persuasive letter to his teacher explaining how you could use Pokemon cards to help reinforce math skills.
Yes, you can.
And
Agree.
And
critical thinking.
Yeah. He even got like a little BuzzFeed article so you can find it. But yeah, and so Pokemons were reinstated as just for math time. But you know, if you want to talk about the connection of fandom and education and you know what you can do, I don't know where he is right now. I'm pretty sure he'll be in Ivy School at some point in time. But you know, it can be super, super special. And so I think it's one of the, you know, most amazing ways that fandom can make kids so excited and make them feel that they can do anything. And I think that's one of the most important things, that they feel empowered by what they love.
Javier, do you want to jump in on that one?
I mean, it's funny that she brings up the school too, because that was the reason why I wrote A Reason to Smile was those students. They had a plethora of books that they could read from that talked about stories from different walks of life, from a very vast amount of perspectives. But the one perspective that I have that I could never see was a perspective of a Puerto Rican person. There were never any books about Puerto Rican people at all, to any degree. Not even like having a side character or even the character going to Puerto Rico. So I said, I'm going to change that because I wanted to work in comics. I wanted to, do X-Men or Spider-Man and do that on a monthly basis. And I realized that I was too slow. I was not going to be able to do a monthly book. So I said, okay, I need to do my own books. I need to get that experience. because I don't want someone saying, well, you need experience in order to get this job. And I was like, how do I get experience without experience? So I made my own books. And the first book that I made was A Reason to Smile Volume 1. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to write a story that showed kids that they had their own agency, no matter how old they were. Because one of the things that we would hear the kids say is, well, I can't do that because I'm a kid. And you hear things like, oh, that's for babies, that's for girls, that's for boys, and all those limitations that were brought on these kids by either their parents or by society. And I wanted to dispel that. So whenever I write my stories, I'm addressing different issues that limit us in our scope of imagination, be it within our own lives or with how we interact with other people. So in Volume 1, I addressed the idea that even though you're a kid, you can still affect positive change in your environment. And then I started hearing stories about, well, not stories, but issues from parents saying how they needed stories about bullying and how they can affect that in a positive way. And my mother always told me, if somebody talks, wild to you, just ignore them with words. But if they put their hands on you, you can destroy them. So that's the only time I would ever fight was when somebody would ever push me. So like physically push me. But I'm at an age now where I don't want that to be the first way to address things. So I did that in my stories. I said, okay, well, we don't have to knock somebody out in order for them to leave you alone. You can find another way to either you move on to another situation or help them move on to another situation. So I addressed that in Volume 2. And then I go to Comic-Cons all over the country. Unfortunately, I haven't been to San Diego, but I've been to Seattle and I've been to Puerto Rico and I've been to all these other places. And I will be talking to you later about that. So what I would notice is that even Volume 1, as basic and as simple as it was, so that way kids could grasp the concept and the metaphors and the visual creativity, parents were still thinking that it might be too much for some of their younger children. So I said, okay, you're going to tell me no, that you can't buy this book because it's too advanced for you, then I'm going to make an even more basic book for your kids and your family, and that way you can't tell me no. So I made a board book. So my third book was a board book, and it was about Luisa as a 5-year-old instead of as a 10-year-old. And she's meeting her friends for the first time. Because one of the things that I wanted to address in this book was how awkward kids can be because no one is teaching them how to be social.
Yeah.
We're bringing kids into the schools and we're having them sit next to other kids, but we're not showing them how to interact with their neighbors. We're not teaching kids how to be friends. We're just telling them, make friends. How do you do that?
So, I mean, what if some of the, so you created your own fandom. Technically, you took, everyone here who's an artist of any kind, which is literally every single person on this panel, acting all the way up, teaching all the way up. Technically, you're an artist and you're a creator, right? Yeah. Because you're creating to be able to then present and teach and educate. So that is something I want everyone to kind of hone in on too, as a takeaway point from here. Melanie, you wanted to say something?
Oh no, I was just going to make the comment of how important it is to really foster the want to read within children. For the longest time, before I got to the age where I could start working, I did a lot of volunteering in my early days, and I would always volunteer at the library through our summer programs, and a lot of that was developing younger children. So here I'm like preteens, and you had everything from 4 and up, maybe from like anywhere from 4 to 10, reading books and trying to get kids to keep reading during the summer. And it was something where it was just something as simple as just to incentivize read a book, you get a coin, and at the end, maybe you can take the coins and tokens and get candy or something. But it got kids reading. And a lot of times I've always noticed that for me personally, I did better in any of the classes as I went to like middle school, high school, that were other teachers, especially middle school, and I'll actually even back it to elementary, that fostered reading, that did those. I had teachers that had a bookshelf, and it was okay, maybe this might not be your strongest subject, but read a book, give me an essay about it, and I'll give you extra credit. So it was something to keep my knowledge going of maybe I don't know the subject from the text, but here's a book about that saying that whether it was geography or history or something like that. Maybe the textbook isn't getting me. I'm not understanding the subject, but reading in a different way, whether it's a narrative or if it's more of a fantasy story, but still correlates to the subject matter being taught within that classroom.
Right.
You're still reaching the student. And I always going to remember those teachers that understood that they need to have more of a chameleon approach to their teaching method. And that it's not that this is my way of teaching, you guys better learn it, but you're going to have out of your classroom of 20, 30 students, everyone's going to want to learn differently. So you need to make sure that you're trying to do your best to hit everybody and compensate where necessary. And reading seems to be that magical world where kids start reading, they get in their world, they start having their own imaginations, whether voices they're hearing in their heads and how they're translating these different characters. And that's the greatest thing is, especially if the characters aren't being, sometimes I think that if the character is not fleshed out to be a specific background or person of color, that the child's going to be able to put what they want to see in representation into that.
Exactly.
And sometimes that's, I think, just an absolutely great way to get more diversity into a book, and by letting the child put that in there for them.
Yeah, that's fantastic point of view.
And that goes across even with my series. And some people have asked me, because of how it was written before all this thing going on, is really how can somebody get through, say, the world that we're going through? Because how it isn't anymore. And so you have these kids growing up in this different world, and it's like, how do they get past it? And one of the things that I teach as part of my series through Myrta is it doesn't matter what happens to you in life. What matters is how you react to it.
Yeah.
We had a question in the comments from Molly. We had a couple more questions. Actually, some people, Molly found us. Yay. Great comments here. And Molly was asking a question for the panel. How do we address the neurological issues that will come from this pandemic for these kids who go through odd social situations of lack of contact? So I think that's okay for us to kind of delve into, if we're looking at the perspective that everyone just gave us about being able to find something that a child can identify with, and two, as a connective point to deal with the social trauma that's coming from existing in this pandemic situation that we're living in. For myself, that is what I do for a living. So thanks, Molly. You put me on the spot. I got to talk neurology now. So I would love for all of you to jump in on that. Definitely, Val, and definitely Latisha on this one too as well. From my perspective, from the neuropsychiatric perspective, okay, so the brain is made of millions and millions of neurons and gray and white matter and a series of structures, all of which trigger what's called neuroendocrine system, right? And when you have a positive fandom, and why we're even doing this, why fandom makes me a better me, is because literally when you embrace and you focus on and allow yourself to live within the positive influence of that fandom, what it does is it triggers 3 systems in the brain. But one of the primary, the frontal cortex, the frontal lobes, very important, because that has to do with the ASMR that we talked about earlier. And then the amygdala. Now, the amygdala then works with the neuroendocrine system. Sorry, I'm going all science nerd on you people. That's who I am. So the neuroendocrine system.
Everybody here understands completely.
So the neuroendocrine system is the nerves triggered through a hormonal response, and the hormones triggered through a nerve response. It's a feedback loop. And what happens is the waves between the front and the back of the brain, called the alpha theta waves, when you are embracing this and actively participating in the positive fandom, and I say positive always, and an ASMR-led fandom, it triggers that positive feedback loop. And it's a positive feedback loop in this sense, because what it does is suppress stress, and tension, and it suppresses negative feedback loop in the adrenal gland, which is where all of the pain, the struggle, the mental clashing, the dysthymia, the depression, and the anxiety response comes from. So I have to tell you, it's called neuroplasticity. Sorry, guys, I'm an all science nerd again. It's basically our brain and our bodies are flexible entities, and if we feed it the right food, the brain is going to use that to create those positive feedback loops, these healthy feedback loops. So that is literally the foundation of our research, just so you know, and why these conversations are so important, so that we all know what we're doing. And you as teachers and as artists and as authors understand that what you're doing is you're creating those just by your visual, your auditory, and your sensory imagery. Did you guys know you were doing such amazing stuff?
Yeah.
Now you know. Okay.
I will say about
you go, Mel. You're correct.
That's so cool. I mean, and you know what's funny? I think that's one of those things that like we don't know the science behind it, but we do know how the work that other people did made us feel.
That's
and how it helped us.
That's the point.
I want to add that to the world. And we talked about Whoopi Goldberg earlier. She tells the story about being inspired by Nichelle Nichols on Star Trek.
That's right.
Nichelle Nichols then tells the story of Martin Luther King telling her not to leave Star Trek because she'd be inspiring. It's this entire this entire journey.
I have stories about that too. I have stories about everything.
Nichelle Nichols is hands down one of the most important and formative impressions in my life. Just to let everyone know, she was the number one person I identified with. I'm a little Indian girl, and I identified with Nichelle Nichols because she made me know that she's badass. Okay. Y'all know she could run that ship. She could be an admiral. She could be anything. She knew everyone's job. She could step into anyone's roles. And she was just a communications person. No, she wasn't. She could do anything. So I was like, man, I want to be that. That's what I want to be. So
I wanted to mention just as far as the kind of neurological aspects of it. One thing I think is super important is that with kids going through this period, is that we can't expect them to have the kind of childhood that we had, and expect them to be like the kind of kids that we were. So our idea of what childhood is and what their experience is, that also needs to go out the window. And it's important to embrace the kids where they are, and if they're doing fandom, that's great. And then they can do like fandom active things. If they're doing fan art or fanfic or their fan to be willing to embrace all that. But also the stuff that they might come out with might be kind of dark. The stuff that they come out with maybe, we may be like, oh my gosh, and that's healthy and okay too.
Oh, absolutely. I 100% agree with that, because that's how I started. I started in fan fiction, and I started doing poetry. And I was one of those people who I had nobody I could reach out to. I had PTSD, ADPD, which is still something I suffer with today. And I actually did not get proper help until I was in my late 20s, because my family did not believe in doctors.
Correct.
The first doctor that I went to that was a psychologist actually betrayed my trust and told my family everything that I was confiding in. So I had absolutely no trust whatsoever with doctors. So I ended up going myself. I'm like, you know what? I feel terrible. I got to the point where I felt suicidal. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I can't. I'm alone. I can't do. I have no one to reach out to. And it was this psychiatrist that I saw. He actually goes, I want to see your poetry book. I'm like, my poetry book from when I was 13? He's like, yeah, I want to see your poetry book. First, I gave it to him, which he's looking at it. He goes, you know what that is? That is a child that is really calling out for help. and has nobody to reach out to. Because everything I would write about death, I would write about blood, I would write about, my first poem actually was about a story from the perspective of a bullseye being shot at. And so that everything was extremely dark. And it's one of the reasons why my writing, it goes very into the darkness, because that's what my brain knows. And
but where did you find the moment in all of that, if you don't mind my asking, where you were able to create the dichotomy and say, I get that this is where I'm going, but you had those fandoms, you had those things that you connected to that was able to say, this is where I need to be and where I'm going to go. Where did you find that? I mean, I know Doctor Who that had that huge influence on you. But was there any one specific thing, or was it a series of fandoms? Or because I knew that was important in your being able to get on the journey.
It was kind of a combination with Frodo. I really attached to Frodo, specifically in Lord of the Rings, because of especially the end of time Frodo before he went across the sea. Because I wrote a fan fiction where he doesn't decide to leave the Shire, and I love that idea that he stayed behind in Sam being his companion, maybe even lover, because there was that whole thing that maybe they were a little bit more than friends. That was just something I really explored. But then really what made me find my core in my community, honestly, was that one moment that I went to Wizard World on a fluke thing, because it turned out my spouse had a freak accident, had to have their shoulder completely redone, and they're home with me, really just pouting away, really blah, 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 blah. We both were Doctor Who fans, and it turned out that Matt Smith was going to be at Chicago, which was a 4-hour drive for me. I had said, hey, do you want to go for the day? Do you want to go to Chicago and back? And of course, like, yeah. I had no idea that moment was going to be so impactful for me. Not only was a representative of my publisher there, but of course, Matt was there, and I'll be honest, I was not a fan of him or his doctor. So it's quite funny that I wrote the series for him, because it was that encounter that I felt his energy, and that creative energy. It just kind of like, it's really hard to describe being an empath if you're not an empath to really understand that chemistry that you're just like, I was like, wow. And so all my struggles that I dealt with when I literally was about to throw my series away because I thought it was a dead book, I had suddenly the character of Mirta come out from absolutely nowhere like a bolt of lightning and saying, my name's Mirta, that's not how it happened, and basically gave me all of his background, full-fledged, and this is the series. It was that moment that I'm like, I have found my core. And it's interesting because my mentor, Carrie Obergrunner, he says that too. He says, if you can't find your core, you cannot connect with your community. And it's those two things that are really impactful. And a lot of times as artists, we don't realize that we're also dealing with the imposter syndrome, which I had to find that out, that I was dealing with that too. I'm like, good grief. I sound like a mess, but really, it was just so much of that personal journey I had to go through.
So I wanted to really quick, that was amazing. And I wanted to, that reminds me a lot of why you're so close, why you're a gamer like you are. Because I could see I could understand where that makes sense in terms of you being able to find that core and the way that you connect with your gaming community.
Oh, absolutely. I'm part of the Champions Club, folks.
So real quick, I want to say that we are here today as a featured panel as part of the HarleyCon inaugural event, which started this morning. And anyone who's listening in, check out #HarleyCon for additional panels, which I think Christian will be on something later in the evening for an after hours panel from the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. I want to thank so much Amelia Poole, who is the innovator, inventor, and genius behind HarleyCon, and really gave us the opportunity to be able to co-host this. So while we're having it here on our page and our sites, we are actually also having it shared over to HarleyCon, and I want to thank her for giving us this opportunity. I knew this was a bit of a heavy conversation and topic, but it's so extremely relevant and essential and critical that we start having it more openly, not just between us as friendly chats, right? And I know that Amelia and Harley herself, she highly believes in it. She wanted to be on the panel, but obviously she's running a con, so that couldn't happen. But she's going to be joining us, I believe. If things work out, we will be doing a 1 to 2 day event that focuses on this theme specifically, and raising funds for Mental Health Awareness Association that I work with here in Central Florida, who will be partnering with us on some of our research and our workshops in the future, and then hopefully getting it out at a national level. So I wanted to really quickly say that because I know Miss Ada has to jump off of the chat. Any parting words for us, Miss Ada, before we go? I think we got to all your answers, but I want that story, LOTR.
Yeah, I have a ton of stories. That's the problem, because we have a story about Kukura. I have a story about Lord of the Rings. I have another story about the Lord of the Rings. I want to hear this. So, I went to college in Mexico in 1993. I started college, studying literature, as I say. And one of my teachers, Professor Colin White, was British. Not only he was British, he was one of the original students of a certain Tolkien, Professor Tolkien. He had actually studied under Tolkien. He was my medieval literature teacher, a great man, but he hated Lord of the Rings. He despised Lord of the Rings.
Vilified. Vilified.
In his words, it was a real shame that Professor Tolkien decided to leave academy to start wasting his time with little elves prancing in the forest. The really fun thing was that I was taking classes with him the year that the movie came out. So it was the hardest because we had to understand medieval English, and we had to write these long essays about what we were reading, and let's be honest, we never did. And one of my classmates found the best way to pass the class without giving him homework on time, which was at any point in the class to raise her hand and go, Professor, just a question. Do you think that this poem we are seeing now may have inspired Professor Tolkien for Lord of the Rings?
Oh, they just...
Professor White went ranting about how Lord of the Rings was a waste of time.
Oh, wow.
The part is that he had read it because he knew it. He could actually identify the characters, but he hated it. And practically the whole class was, him ranting about Lord of the Rings when we were supposed to be reading about medieval.
It's really the Silmarillion, and like why I love this story is because again, one of my most formative, and I think almost all of us here are huge. I think I'm not sure, Val, you have to tell me. Tolkien or Silmarillion and Lord of the Rings fans, the fantasy, and how important it was for us to be able to say, hey, wow, fantasy is a good thing. It's been around since Tolkien wrote it, and look at how it has reshaped the world of world building, and it gave us the right to be able to do that. But yet her professor's like, nah, waste of time. Waste of time. It is nothing for the world.
So much of literature is built on the back of allegory, and you could just say that's just nothing.
From Professor White, because the problem for him is that he studied languages, and Tolkien was a great linguist. So I think that he was thinking, just imagine all the research on how language works that we could have had if he hadn't gone and wrote about little elves prancing in the forest.
The man created his own languages, for God's sakes. He was such a master of linguistics.
But I love it, Professor Colin White. Yeah, I think that now he's up there in the gray lands. But because of course he's in the gray land, yelling about how he wasted so much time ranting about the Lord of the Rings instead of teaching us Chaucer. He liked my taste.
Chaucer.
Oh, okay.
Total Chaucer person here, okay?
He liked it. A Knight's Tale, the movie, which was, I was like, why? I mean, I like it too, but how can you hate Lord of the Rings? But like A Knight's Tale, it doesn't compute.
Wait a minute, what?
Because it's not people interested in Chaucer.
Tale was in to watch Heath Ledger run around.
Oh my God.
This goes back to why fandom is important. They didn't have fandom back then, so they didn't have it.
But they did, right? Because medieval studies, linguistics, these were all fandoms. So we have to really remember.
I guess.
Yeah. It's just that they didn't know how to juxtapose the literary science, the literary arts to fantasy. But yet, isn't that what the literary arts were? Like that?
Before I go, my school was weird. I mean, the only reason I do not have my major, I have not officially graduated from college, despite I have been out of it for like 20 years, it's because I wrote my thesis on Stephen King. Because I love Stephen King.
Love Stephen King.
Carrie is one of those books in which I identify so much, which is a bad thing if I ever get telekinetic powers. But when I handed it, because I have it somewhere around, can you hand me my thesis? I have an assistant. It's beautiful. The fantasy storyline model, as you can find it on Stephen King books, is the title.
Ooh.
No one could check it on me. First, because I had to find a professor who agreed that Stephen King was literature. I used to joke that they didn't consider him literature because he was not Russian and dead. The problem is that the teachers that could review my thesis
Is he Tolstoy? No. Specific, Russian, and dead.
We cannot make an exam because you would correct us in the questions.
Yeah. Ooh.
Well, good, but I still need the paper that says that I do.
So you got a check mark, right? We were good. That is literally life. When you can write something to the extent of knowledge so in depth related to fandom that you truly cannot get feedback because someone doesn't. How are they going to know? How is anyone going to be able to respond to your passionate? You know what I'm saying?
The worst part,
an understanding of something.
The really worst part is that I wrote that little thing 3 years before Stephen King finished the Dark Tower series, and I predicted how the Dark Tower was going to end. Because that was my thesis, that Stephen King tends to write the same archetype, and depending on where the archetype falls on the story, things end well or things end bad. I can give you a hint. If there is not an artist in the story, the bad guy is going to win. Check every single one of them. If there is not an artist, be it a writer, a painter, a comic book artist, a graphic designer, an architect, the bad guy wins.
Oh.
And you were right.
I'm thinking, like, hold on.
The only one who can face the evil and not die is an artist.
Someone who's creative.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who's the ingenuity, the intuition, the creativity, the creative mind.
Vanquish the evil, but the teacher will die.
Okay, so the moral of this story is, children, everyone who's listening, make sure that you tap in to your creative natures, because it's going to save the world.
Yep.
That's one thing, and the other, you have a group of 8 friends that are going to fight against an evil clown. Do not take the kid who wants to be an accountant.
That's why I changed from accounting to medicine, people.
Okay, good.
I didn't want to die.
The accountant died. Check it. The accountant died.
Do you know Excel spreadsheets? Yes. Get out of here.
Get
You know how to do formulas?
nowhere near me.
Leave. Leave. We're gonna die.
But you know, if you're going to do something, you still need the producer. You still need some. You still need some direct traffic. So
Yeah.
That's still the creative mind.
Maybe that's why Captain America is so good, though, because Captain America is an artist.
You got it, buddy. You got it. Oh my God, I love this. Is so cool. I think we have made this. I am so glad. I hope we have this recorded. Oh yes, it's on YouTube. This entire conversation is going to. I'm going to write a research paper on it, because everything we just talked about is literally right. It literally proves backwards to the point that National Endowment for the Arts is the originators for the research I told you about that we got our published idea in the National Institute of Health, and it was about proving that the creative arts is essential because we keep losing funding. So
actually, the first thing that gets cut, it's all, and the thing is that like the creative arts, whether it's visual arts, music, theater, it's what helps us survive. It's what helps us survive moments like this. It helps us survive, personal.
You know what I mean?
It's like, and I mentioned to you that I also teach theater, with little kids. And one of my favorite things to do is the theater classes where we are doing geek stuff. So I'm like, okay, kids, we're going to do a Star Wars class. And what we're going to do, this is your lightsaber, and we're going to do some basic things on that. And you're going to have so much fun and be safe and work together and, figure out how to communicate with each other. And we're going to make these weird shapes with your body. You're going to enjoy it and have fun and be weird together. And I think that's one of the biggest things that comes to fandom and just geekery in general. When you can be weird together,
yeah,
beautiful. The craziest thing.
Beautiful.
It's all about the core connecting to your community. It really is what that is.
Yeah,
exactly what it is. And that's actually like, I love you. I love when people come around in our conversations and you literally hit the nail of all of the 11 key points of my research. I never give it to you because then we wouldn't have then it wouldn't be proving the point. But the fact that you always come around to it, every conversation identifies all 11 points. It's impossible for it to not be valid, credible, because everyone comes to those points eventually and tells it to me during these panels and workshops. And yes, absolutely, Molly. You know that we're doing the workshops. I could say this could be one of the workshops because this is how we would do it and would talk our way through it. And of course, we could have the audience be able to ask the questions in here as well. I think that we would never have made it through this pandemic to the extent that we have. We could never have successfully been able to create so many diversionary tactics and methods and platforms to be able to help the entire globe to cope if we weren't all nerds.
Thank you.
Oh, I agree. I definitely agree. Definitely agree. And you can even use this not only as say story workshops, but even personal growth.
Yeah. What were you saying, Javier?
Exactly.
One thing I want to add to that is, so right now I'm wearing the shirt of my character, and the reason why she has the design that she has on her chest is because it is artwork that is created by the indigenous people of Puerto Rico, what is now called Puerto Rico. You know, the island was once called Borinquen. That's why we call Boricua. But it goes back to the fact that the art is what survived. You know, when Columbus came and started doing what he did, and you know, indigenous people were killed and slaves were brought over, and we were all mixed and everything. And now you see Puerto Ricans as we are today. One of the only things that survived was the art. You know, and art and culture, those are things that build societies. So if you don't fund the arts, if you do not help to foster that, what ends up happening is now people still need it. People find a way to create because they have that in them. You know, you said that every child is an artist. It's up to us to help them continue to stay an artist. So we will find a way, you know. So if the grants aren't there, we're gonna make it the way we want to make it, and the government's gonna have to deal with it. You know, they're gonna have to see what we produce and then find a way to you know, get in line with us. That idea of creation and expression will always be there. So if we can find a way to get that into the schools and keep that in the schools, get more funding for schools and education, I believe those things will help also, you know, foster our children to be more creative and keep that creativity instead of having to go to that 9 to 5 every day and feel like they're drained every day. You know, 'cause you can still have that kind of job. That could be the job you love, but if you're put behind the gun every time and are not able to express yourself in any way, you're gonna come home and something's gonna be lacking.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
It always seems that whenever it's time for budget cuts, it's always, if it's schools from a school wide, it goes to the arts, and that's something that's consistently happened. Because I even remember, here comes my age. I graduated in '98. And I remember the 4 years of high school, I went to an arts magnet, and I was in for theater. And at one point, 1 year, let's say it's 97-ish, maybe 98. It was because I was either junior or senior, and they needed to cut 10 positions out of the entire county. They decided to take 9 from our arts program. It's like,
what?
Why are you going just for the arts? And I remember going to the school. There was a lot of us would skip because we could drive. We'd skip school to go to the board meetings, and it was just always look, we don't mind. I remember the director over our program. He had gone there and was just like, look, we understand budget cuts. We understand you have to remove 10 positions. Why is 90% of them coming from my school? Not just my school, but my arts program.
Right.
Why? Because everyone always has that here. And again, that was 20 years ago.
Wow.
And it's still
today. That's because people see it as flippant, as they see it as entertainment. They don't see it as formative.
Which is not whenever anything happens socially, whenever anything happens in the world, our response always is in art.
It's
thank you. Exactly.
Even with the Black Lives Matter movement right now, we've responded with murals.
Exactly.
On the street. It's whenever anything happens. Think of any type of protest. Anything happens societally, you respond with art. Entertainment, whether it's in either even if you say marketing, you go a lot of our world moves is driven by marketing, but that's marketing in graphic design, that's marketing that's changing the world in graphic design, and the commercials the actors are doing and the scripts that they're doing. A lot of it is based in art, and for some reason people don't want to give it the credit, but these are the same people who the first words out of their mouth is, I can't draw a stick figure, hey, could you draw me this? Oh, by the way, it's like $2. But anyway,
right.
But art is the way that we always respond to a lot of these things, and for some reason, it's cut. First thing,
that's some of the science-ish or science words, specifically research words. when it comes to the results of teaching, education, in the arts, it's not immediately quantitative, as it doesn't fit nicely on a graph, and doesn't fit nicely on a spreadsheet, and doesn't fit nicely on a profit margin. And you can't say, oh, in Q1, the profits of this. No, it doesn't operate.
You're right.
And
but you got a graphic artist to make that PowerPoint now, didn't you?
Right.
It's absolutely the truth. And that's actually why I'm trying to quantify the quality of art and fandom as a formative communication skills. And it's going to take a while to get to it, but we're getting there. Just know that what you're doing is part of fighting that fight to get exactly what you just said, Latisha, about being able to quantify it, because it is possible to do it. I can promise you it's possible to do it. And we know that because the acting industry brings in money. The art industry, to some extent, brings in money. Every inventor in the world is creating something. What do you think that is? That's creationism, right? That is art. That is a form of ingenuity and the creative arts. So we want our kids, as we've talked about throughout the whole panel today, which has just been amazing, to be able to understand that embracing their positive fandoms really can help them to be able to get through the struggles in their life. And someone had asked earlier how a child can bring that fandom into their daily life. So we can't get to all of those. They were great questions. I hope you get back to look at the chat questions. They were great. What the last thing I want to do before we leave is just a quick round robin, because I know Ada has to go. And if you need to run off, please do that. Go right ahead. And I want it because I want kids to hear this one thing. A fandom in your life, and again, it doesn't have to be only from the nerd or geek world or the entertainment or the artistic world. A fandom in your life where there was a struggle that a character experienced that you connected to so resoundingly that it has left that full indelible impression on you and has helped you to be a better you.
Okay,
one
answer and then leave. So
yep, that's fine.
It's actually a very recent one, and it shows that there is no age for fandom. The episode Princess Scorpia from She-Ra and the Princess of
Yes! Oh. You knew I was getting there. Go ahead.
But I had this horrible tendency to befriend people who are catrats, who are incredibly toxic. And I go back and I go back and I go back and they hurt me. But I can't leave them because they are my friends. Oh. So that moment when Scorpia tests Catra and Catra fails and Scorpia decides to leave, I was crying. Oh. Yeah, it was, oh my God, that's me. And that's when I decided, no more Catras in my life. I need to find myself a perfumer.
But Catra's not bad. Catra's just had a really horrible, abusive life.
But there's a moment in the last episode, you know I'm a hugger. I know. Catras, if they come back and we can fix it, of course I will get them back. Mm-hmm. But that was that. It was like, oh my God, yes, this is going to be my next always walk forward. No, I'm a hugger. Well, thank you for having me. I really
thank you so much for being
here. Your replies in the recording. Bye-bye. I love you all. And then everyone who wants to go to San Diego, chat to me.
You know I'm with you, buddy. You know I'm with you. And we're doing this panel, okay?
Oh, yeah.
It's happening. Everybody check out Ada Zarate, Luck Shine Draws. Please, please, please look at her art. Buy some art. Commission some art. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, my love. Thank you so much for being with us today. So who wants to go with the next one? Like really that one that just sits with you.
I was going to say I kind of answered it before, so but you can go ahead because I kind of answered it already.
Oh no, go for it, Mackenzie. It's cool.
Well, for me right now, because of with Doctor and because the fandom right now, I find is going through this turmoil because of the Doctor being female. It's not the fact that she's female; it's the fact that Gallifrey is gone again. that is the moment that has connected me again to my doctor, knowing that he or she is not, whether it's being we think experimented on, being an outcast. However, the background of that story is not that that's important, but the fact is that we have somebody we can look up to, and you're not really alone. If you feel that you're alone out there, you're not. You can reach to the doctor. You can hold on to the doctor. Fly in the TARDIS with the doctor. You can also join me too. Become part of my community.
Oh,
Thank you. He hugs. Who? Someone was going next. Was it you guys?
Yeah, it was me. Sorry, I was just so taken with what you said. I forgot. What
I know, it's so beautiful.
For me, one that really stuck with me, and funnily enough, I've only seen it once, I think, was the film Will Smith, Pursuit of Happiness.
Oh God, yes.
That film was just, I was going through. I think it might have been several things at the time. You know, sometimes life just gets you, and you know, it's not always easy, is it? But obviously, I'm in a card industry. There might have been something with relationship. You know, the usual life's the things that life does throw at you. And just the journey that man went through, it was just one thing after another, and I remember watching it with my friend, and I couldn't stop crying because it was just like, did this really actually happen? And he just kept going, and he had a child, and then he was, you know, and it was just a horrible scene where he went to jail. He spent the night in the cells, and then he had to go to this really important, life-changing interview with no pants. And they asked him, I can't remember what, it was no pants, or he had to wear something ridiculous. I can't remember exactly why.
I think he had on sweatpants.
That was it, sweatpants, that was it. He didn't have the right pants on. And I remember the guy said, well, you know, I'm going to ask you why are you in your sweatpants? And he was like, he made a really funny joke. I can't remember the joke, which is really annoying. He said something about, I can't remember, but it's just that whole film, just the adversity that he faced. And he just carried on being strong and just carrying on, and even having a sense of humor. It just really stuck with me. And it just makes me think, like, no matter what life does throw at you, someone's going through much worse. And it really inspired me that you can keep going on.
And
so.
It was a true story.
True story. I was like,
that's just what?
Yeah.
A commodities broker. I mean, for God's sakes. I mean, look at what he went through to get there. That's beautiful. Oh, thank you so much. I love that sharing. Oh my God. Melanie, you have one?
You're muted.
Oh.
Whoops.
So sorry. I'm so sorry. I have a kitten right here who keeps meowing, so I mute myself.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm yelling all night too.
That's okay. It's okay. It's okay. If you need a second, we can go. Someone else can go.
Oh no, I'm good now. Sorry.
Okay,
So the thing is I'm a big dog and all that kind of fun stuff. Now she's just knocking stuff over. Sorry. So when I was younger, I used to read a lot of comics, and one of the things I always read was X-Men. And I always loved X-Men because I always found it to be a wonderful allegory for, you know, the just diversity in the world. So you have, you know, the hardships of racism, but then you also have the problems of disabilities, because within then you have that space of you know, you have a person who can, you know, Storm, who can make, you know, storms and lightning bolts, blah blah blah, and Rogue, who's going to see this. So she's going to Rogue, who literally can't touch anyone because she can kill them. So it showed you also the space of diversity of disability, where some disabilities you can get through, and it's just like all on a spectrum. It's nothing wrong with you. You don't need a cure. You can do your thing. But there are some disabilities out there that you do want a cure for, because it is debilitating. So I've always, even when I was a young age, loved the X-Men. So the one particular one was like this little short vignette. It was an issue of Excalibur, and it's the character Nightcrawler, which everyone kind of knows if you've seen the movies. And it was this little vignette where it was called A Demon Goes to Church on Tuesday. And he was Catholic and very religious and all that. And his thing what stuck with me was it literally was he saved somebody from a burning building, a little child from a burning building. The mother grabs it, sees it's a demon, grabs it and tries to take and flees, saving her from the daughter from him. So he basically goes to confession, and he goes in there and basically says, please, bless me, forgive me because I'm a mutant. And you could see at the beginning of this that the priest is kind of scared because there's a mutant he's talking to. But as they begin talking, it just becomes something where you could see that it's not just Nightcrawler trying to ask for forgiveness for being something he was born being. But then by the end, the priest has like this enlightening moment where he asks for forgiveness. He himself needs to ask for forgiveness for, for having prejudice within him. And it always stuck with me. At the very end, you just had this non-written thing that you could see that there was hope for Nightcrawler at the end. And to me, that really just stuck with me because I know that stuff that I've seen either passively or aggressively growing up. So that always just stuck with me. And it just was one of those fandom moments that I've always known that even if things can be bad, things can get better. It really just gave me this little feeling of hope and that people can change if they want to or even open to it.
And if people around them will allow them to at the same time.
If the seed can get planted in somewhat fertile soil, given the conditions, hope can grow.
If hope can grow, that's fantastic. Thank you. I actually did not remember that one. It's been such a long time.
It's at the end. I mean, literally like 4 pages at the end of an Excalibur.
You got to shoot that to me because I love that concept very much. So Javier?
Spider-Man. Spider-Man has always been my go-to, and I'm an X-Men fan to the nth degree. But it's so the reason why I say this is because I had posters all over my room of X-Men. I think Arthur Adams did 3 different posters back in the 90s. I had the Mutants poster, I had the X-Men, classic X-Men #1 cover, and then the painted version of that. I don't know how to classify that one, but I had all the posters. I used to collect classic X-Men issues because classic X-Men would reprint the old comics. So I got to see some of the history of the X-Men. So I did read that issue. That issue is really a really good one. But Spider-Man was always the one between Spider-Man and Sam Gerthy. Guthrie, I think his name is. From his code name is Cannonball.
Yeah.
So Sam, because he was always the awkward one. He was always tall and skinny and goofy and didn't really know where he fit in, but he knew he had responsibility, so he stepped up to the plate. So that was really inspiring to me. And then with Spider-Man, Peter Parker was always that guy who, he had all this ability and all these powers, but he didn't know how to handle social situations.
Right.
He didn't know how to handle, he didn't have a best friend. Even though Harry Osborn was his best friend, it was like their friendship was always weird. Peter's relationship with girls was always weird, even though he ended up with Mary Jane and Gwen Stacy, which I thought was a little too easy. But he always had problems with them because he didn't know how to navigate, how to be a good man to the women that he was involved with. So that was always something that I kind of related to too, because I didn't know how to talk to girls. I didn't know how to, be friends with guys, and I just went along with what was not too problematic, I guess. If I saw something that was bad, I would stay away from it. If I saw something that was hurting somebody else, I would stay away from it. But then there were other things that would happen, among my peer group, and I was like, oh, you guys are doing that? Okay, I guess I should be doing that too. And I didn't know how to navigate it. So seeing Peter go through that and still persevere, still fight, never give up, that was always encouraging for me.
Nice.
That's amazing. I'm thinking you guys making my brain feel like this because I'm really I'm processing everything that you're saying, and and how I'm connecting in the exact same way, and how, yes, I can see what you're exactly right. That's such a real expression that you're giving us, Javier, because I believe it's just relating it to real life, what every kid is going through, the situational awkward, social awkwardness, social disconnection, and a sense of dislocation. And even though you have all the power, how do you use it when you don't feel like you belong? Belongingness is everything. And so understanding how to navigate to be able to find your belongingness, that's just like really powerful stuff, everyone. Wow. Okay. I'm getting verklempt here, people. Okay. Okay. And oh my God. Yeah, I get verklempt. It happens. Ooh, okay. So Latisha, and then I'll just share mine last one.
Yeah, so I've been thank you for me time to I'm really speculating with this. One of my formative and important fandoms was Animorphs, the book series. So that was the book series where, you know, there's a alien invasion, kids come down and they, you know, develop the power to turn into animals, to fight this, you know, this huge thing that they can't talk to anybody about. They are kind of isolated and they have to depend on each other. But what was amazing that these kids, they were all very different. And the sensitive, empathetic one was a little Black girl with natural hair and a short haircut named Cassie. And Cassie was like my heart. She loved animals like I did. She was kind of the most sensitive and like, okay, let's try and piece the way through this. But she was also in the middle of a war. She was in the middle of something that was extremely serious. And I guess what spoke to me was that the idea that you can handle things that are challenging in your own way. You know, because I was bullied as a kid, all these things, and I never got good at dissing anyone back. That was never. No one believes me when I say, like, I got into a bunch of fights, and I did, because people were fighting me, and I tried to fight back and was not always successful. To admit. And so in Cassie, I found someone who was kind of sensitive and kind, or tried to be kind, you know, like I tried to be, and still was able to survive, and still was important, and still had something to say. And you know, I identified with her, and that was also one of the qualities that I found in Gabrielle and Xena. Because one of the, and I've probably only seen this episode once too, but I remember it specifically that they were in the middle of this battle, and Xena's all ready to go home, gung ho, and everyone's like all fighting and battling, whatever. And you know, Gabrielle's like, I guess I'm useless here. But then she goes out into the battlefield and starts giving the soldiers water, and that causes this ceasefire for like everyone to like take their dead back or whatever, because she's defenseless. All she has is her water, and the other group comes and they're like right in her face. She's like, oh my God. And they're like, nah, you're just doing this. So this means, and they can't really communicate. So like the idea that showing kindness and connection with other people, that can be a way to fight for justice as well. So
beautiful.
Can you do me a favor and just post into our chat all of the fandoms you're talking about? I'll try and get it in there because I want to make sure that everyone who's listening has the opportunity to be able to, you know, check out the fandoms that we've been discussing today. Simranjit Kaur, did you put that one up? Sorry.
Sure.
Okay,
there we go.
Yeah, no, you got it right. Simranjit said that this makes me remember just how influential Gundam Wing was in shaping my politics and pacifism. It made me study international relations because it made me want to help create a world that didn't need child soldiers and needless bloodshed. Oh man, These conversations are fantastic. And then Shirley talked about her serious life-changing fandom was an obscure cartoon in 1999 called The Magician. Then identifying with the main character, Ace Cooper, and he saved her life when she was feeling down. And that's exactly the point: is to be able to have something that that is able to do that, where you're able to reach inside of yourself and pull yourself back up, because you're like, yeah, that experience is something that's mine, even though it wasn't yours, but it becomes yours. So that's the importance of embracing your fandom passions and how it can make you a better person, because you're learning the whole time. You're watching, you're reading, you're listening. Music does that, conversations like this do that. So I am feeling so, I want to share mine, but I feel so bad, Val. I know how late it is for you, and we went like 20 minutes over because this is so hard to end this conversation.
I didn't notice.
I am so sorry. This has just been it's been a fascinating conversation. I just thank you guys so much.
It's so helpful, especially during this time, of the pandemic, and everyone's, going through what they're going through. It is just so nice. We've been shut off from the arts. Obviously, I'm not really going to auditions at the moment or going to my acting class and whatever. So just talking like this is wonderful.
Yeah.
It is. It is. This is what we need. So in this world that we've been that we've become accustomed to, the thing that's come from the pandemic is that everyone's geek flag is flying. Everyone has come to a place where they're more willing to accept the relevance, the importance, the psychosocial impact, and on the body and on the healing process by embracing those fandom passions. And if we keep giving people the credence and saying, no, do this, because see, we're all doing it, and we're from everywhere, and we're from across the globe, then what we're doing is we're validating, right? And we're making this a credible source of self-care and self-healing. So the more that we're willing to share the conversation, the more we're going to help people be able to feel empowered, to find power through those positive fandoms. And I want everyone to know that this is the gift that we're trying to give you, is to know that this is a blessing. This is a great thing. Be a nerd and be a geek and do what you need to do, and rely on the fandoms that have given you those positive messages and are helping you to self-heal, not the ones that are harming you. I will always make that distinction. It is always the ones that allow you to self-heal. For myself, and I'll make it short, everyone knows that I'm a massive DC fan. It's crazy because everyone, it's a difficult fandom to be part of, because unless you understand it from the very beginning, you don't know how extremely critical it was during wartime, how critical it was to have those comic books on that stand that related and connected you to those superheroes, to those characters that help you to be able to get through wartime. And I think a lot of people forget that was an actual important, critical element of the nation's healing, and then internationally as well. I'm from a small little island, and the comics we got were the Marvel comics, X-Men, and we got the DC comics. I came here at 3. My mom was reading comics since she was 16. And in the 40s, if you're thinking about this, in the 40s and 50s, Wonder Woman was shaping her life. And that carried into my life. So I have my 85-year-old mom, 87-year-old dad, and they always raised us on understanding those comic books, which makes no sense because I'm a little Indian girl. But to put it in perspective, if I didn't have that, I would have had a totally different paradigm. But we were lucky that I had, and my parents were extremely culturally oppressive. I'm sorry, I love them to death, but they expected different things from me. So being able to delve into the understanding of, Diana is a princess, and that's not what I was, but yet I was. going through the stress and the struggle of my life when I would be hiding in a closet because of a lot of difficult situations, and reading that book and going, see, I know that you're a princess and that you are helping me to understand I can be that person as well. And then also knowing that she said no to her culture. She said no to her family and to what was expected of her, because what she needed to do to save the world was more important. Who she needed to become to be able to save the world, and what she was willing to sacrifice, which was a lot, guys. This is a god. And she was willing to sacrifice all of it because she knew it was more important to serve the world, because she could bring her gifts to them. And in my head, it must have translated to my DNA. That's all I could think, because it's everybody here know me. This is literally who I am today. And it took me a long time to understand why. It's as if she genetically recoded me and gave me permission that at some point in life I would unlock my ability to be Diana Themyscira. I actually wrote an entire research paper called "I Am Diana Themyscira." Wow. So that's actually going to be in the book, just so you guys know. And it's specifically based on what I'm telling you right now. So, yeah. Fandom can change you and make you a better person. Fandom can make you everything you need to be if you allow yourself to be part of it. But if your parents and your family also share in the joy of that passion, is probably one of the most important things that can happen in your life. And that's the message that we want to share to our audience and to all of our friends and fans is, be proud of who you are and be proud of your fandom passions, and understand that that you can only be a better person for knowing how to embrace those positive messages, positive influences, and connectors. So I'm going to let everyone tell us how to find them, what their social media sites are, and then we're going to sign off for the night. And I thank you guys so much for being willing, because we literally went over 25 minutes. I'm so sorry. I apologize. But this was just, wow.
That's for the good thing with this particular con is because we're doing our streaming within our own channels and sharing, we can go over. Whereas if we were in a live convention center and trying to dodge COVID, we'd get kicked out by the next panel. Kick us out by now.
So we'll start with Melanie, Mackenzie, Javier, Latisha, and then of course Miss Val. Let us know what's coming up next and where we can find your work.
So you can find me at piecesofmelee.com. The site is under construction at the moment, but good thing is I'm not going outside and driving anywhere anytime soon, so I'm going to be working on that. You can also find me basically at the same thing for anything on Etsy or Instagram, YouTube, all that kind of fun stuff. Look for that tag. I'm just painting like crazy right now. I'm going to be doing a Lucifer piece next because the Ninth Doctor is now coming to Big Finish. I finally get to stop everything else on my list, and I'm going to be working on another Ninth Doctor piece. So that's what's coming up on the board right now.
Can't wait. And please share those videos of you doing your cakes.
Oh, yep. Oh, yeah, I do cakes on the side, but I can ship those. So cakes, cake pops, if you want something sweet that's sculpted and fondant in the Pinellas County or Tampa Bay area.
So gorgeous. All right, Miss Mackenzie.
Well, so you can find me at MackenzieFlohr.com. If you're really interested in the Right Wands and don't want to know everything that you could possibly know about it, there's actually a website separately for that, which is called TheRightOfWands.com. I just put Mackenzie Flohr, but there's a link to that because I'm building kind of like the equivalent of the Bible on the web. And then before it actually becomes the actual Bible for all the producers and all that. I am, as I mentioned before, writing the screenplay currently for the Right of Wands series, and it should be, right now I finished with Act 1. I still got another 4 acts to write yet, but once that is done, I am working with an award-winning screenwriter right now, who is a coach. She's coaching me so that way I get it done correctly because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I'm not afraid to admit that I am a bit of a perfectionist. I like to get things done correct the very first time instead of having to mosey over and over and over. My writer friend, dear friend, Rachel Kane, she would understand exactly what I'm talking about because she was the one who got me to finally stop doing that over editing.
And we'll be finding you on an upcoming series with us, and hopefully our event that we're putting together, mental health and fandom focus, right? So
yeah, and I'm going to be doing a webinar also on the imposter syndrome and learning how, or more allowing everybody to learn if you want to go the personal growth route. If you really are one of those people who, I don't know what my purpose is. If you don't know what that is, I can help you with that. And through my panel for the imposter syndrome, the Right of Wand series is actually going to become a coaching program, which is inspired by Carrie Oberbrunner's Secret Path. And we will be dealing with those concepts of why you may be stuck.
amazing.
Nice.
Okay, Mr. Javier.
I'm working on a bunch of different things right now. So I have I've been commissioned to do a one-page comic strip, web comic about Thanos. Oddly enough, so we're having some fun with Thanos. I've already written and I'm illustrating the pages for short stories that are going to be about spin-offs of A Reason to Smile. It's going to be called Another Reason to Smile. And in that series, you're going to actually see short stories based on the supporting cast, Luisa's friends and her family, so we can get to know them a little bit more. And then I'm working on a novel that I've written about 27,000 words for so far, because I'm kind of changing my publishing direction. So instead of just doing the square books that are hybrids of picture books and comic books, I am now going to be doing traditional comic books for Luisa's story, where she's outside of class and outside of school, her weekends or after school settings. That'll be like the comic book, traditional comic book style. And then her day school life, what happens in school, her class assignments, her interpersonal relationships and emotional growth in school. That will be done in the novels. That first novel is going to be called A Reason to Smile, Hello New Kid. And then I'm also, what else am I doing? So I'm trying to work on the branding of A Reason to Smile as well, and my own illustrations. And so now every step that I take, I'm going to actually be trying to either turn it into a T-shirt or turn it into a book, or something that could be published. So with this comic strip, there's going to be a scene where you see an illustration of death, because he loves death so much. So I'm drawing death right now as we speak. So all of the drawing and the sketch work and the background material for all that will be on my Patreon first, and then we'll be going to my my social media and then my website once everything is finished. So you can find me under the learning curve under almost every platform. Somebody was a knucklehead on Twitter and took my name, so I changed the THE to THA on Twitter. But I have my presence on there as well.
That's amazing. I'm sorry, I was just getting a message from somebody from another thing. So it's been interactive, honestly. So I've been like, trying to keep up with everything. All right, Miss Latisha.
Hey, so that's my Twitter, Latisha Creates. Funny story about that. If you're wondering about the name change, like I said, Javier and I used to work with kids, and I was a teacher for a long time. So my social media, I changed it to that spelling of Latisha because it didn't want to. And kind of
that's what I was thinking.
What's to be found?
I don't like it to change. It's been too long for me to change. But as far as where you can find me, yes, you can find me on Twitter. I also have the same handle on Instagram. What I have next coming up, I will actually be moderating a panel focusing on POC, Black and POC directors and writers in theater. And so that panel will actually be on the 18th. And I will, definitely put that in my social media handles. I also have a short film called After Charlottesville, which is, of course, about the Charlottesville protests and kind of the immediate aftermath. So that is also something that I'm building a website and a curriculum around that, about self-care and education and all that. So that should be premiering soon. I'm also working on a lot of scripts myself. Actually, if everyone could cross their fingers for me, my script, Pride and Privilege, which is a POC adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, set in It's super exciting, and it's currently at the semi-finalist level of screenwriting competition. So, hoping it gets higher. We'll see. So that's the next step for me. And no matter where it lands, I also want to possibly do a reading of it fairly soon. So I'm putting those projects together, and like I said, if you want to know kind of what's up with me and just my general thoughts, find me on Twitter, and hope to do more things like this.
And I will connect with you. I already just followed you on Twitter, so we can definitely connect.
And we're going to be working together because Latisha is going to be, and Javier and Mackenzie are all going to be routine, and hopefully Melanie will be able to come on. We'll be part of our routine team for our Changing Narratives media show that's going to be coming out, and hopefully, oh my God, we've been trying to pull this thing together, but we did it today, so we can do it.
One foot in front of the other, you're gonna end up getting there.
Yeah, it's about bringing these conversations about changing the narratives and really challenging the status quo, but from our perspective as persons of color and across the spectrum of just oppression, suppressions, but also being nerds, kind of different. So it's going to be kind of cool. I'm excited, and I know we're going to have a great time. So, all right, Ms. Val, tell us what you're up to these days, or what you've been in.
To be honest, it's really quiet at the moment, but I'm like Latisha. I've actually been working on a comedy drama for a few years now with my writing partner. I made the decision during lockdown to actually contact the actors, and we've put together a sample episode. So I'm really passionate about that. It has been read by a couple of directors I know. One of them's been amazing. He's just given us so much advice and just been there the whole time. Another one is very keen on the script actually, and he wants to forward it on to a couple of producers, so fingers crossed there. But I'm just getting a visual, a little mini episode thing put together for that. Most people know me from Doctor Who, but you can check me out, Velly_T. When the next things come, I'll obviously be posting stuff on my Instagram, but you can find me online quite easily actually, and just check out the things I've done, which I'm pretty proud of. Like we were talking about Call the Midwife earlier. That's one. Series 2. That was a while ago now. Series 2, I think that is. Also, actually, my acting class. My coach is an American guy. He's amazing, and for the past year, I have been working with him. So I'm actually getting a new show we'll put together, but an American one, because that is something that I'm planning to do. Come over to your side, start working there. So,
oh wow!
About that as well.
We really need to connect, and really, I'd love to have you, stay on and be part of the new product that we're going to be bringing, because it has a lot about really being able to build representation throughout features that we really don't even sometimes think about. I've had two producers reach out to me to help to connect to authors and writers and artists across the POC spectrum. So we do have to have that conversation, because I will be happy to connect people. So that's the good part about our company. We do get a lot of networking to be able to help other people. So, all right, my friends, we could just keep chatting forever. I can't believe we hit the 2-hour mark. Thank everybody so much. I think we just needed to have a chat. We all just needed to talk. and just really get this out, because really I haven't even had the opportunity to do that. Because working in the medical world with COVID has been very stressful. But I don't ever want to forget that this is the thing that connects me, that fuels me, that feeds me, and satisfies me. And I want us all to know that we're here for you. I want all of our fans and our followers and friends, and even if you're only just coming to us and knowing us, please know that we're a very strong, connected family. We're all here to support you, and that we are here to be able to help you. And if you have questions, you can always post them in comments to Diversity Geek. You can check out what we do, past articles and writings and research stuff that I've actually done already on diversitygeek.org. Stay tuned to the Diversity Geek Facebook page and the Twitter site for Changing Narratives, which will be coming up pretty soon. God willing, we're going to get it done. And we will be actually putting up, whether it's in September or October, a 1 to 2 day event that specifically, like I said, focuses on mental wellness and self-care through fandom. Again, the first of its kind. We have a lot of pieces to put together to make it happen, but I'm hoping that this whole team will be with us to make, and then that will also be raising funds for suicide prevention and the mental health associations across the U.S. So,
and I can confirm, say our first guest because I have my Twitch up here from Twitch.
Right.
Our very first guest I can confirm is Anamuse Bryson, who is an awesome Fortnite player, and he has just a fantastic.
Yeah, and we've also secured the very amazing, I don't know how many Steven Universe fans there are out here, but we've actually secured Dee Dee Magnohall, who plays Pearl in Steven Universe, from the also from the Mickey Mouse Club, also an extremely gifted and talented theater artist and musician and singer. So that's how we're going, guys. We're really securing a great network of talent to be able to help us to bring this conversation to the world. So I want to thank everyone. I want everyone to know that we love you and we're here to support you. And the Diversity Geek family is family, and you're all my lovelies. And that's why everyone calls me the Geek Mom. So you're all family to me. So just want to sign off, say thank you to my guests so much for being here and for being willing to just fuel me and make me feel better, because I needed this. So I love all of you for being here. And Val, I couldn't even imagine that I'd be so blessed to have you here, and your smile has just been uplifting my spirits for the whole day today. And
I agree.
I'm so inspired by all of you. I'm so inspired by every single one of you. Thank you. And it has been hard with this whole COVID and whatnot. I would have just been sat in front of the TV for the last couple of hours watching God knows what. So this has just been such a medicine to me. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and because of Nisha's suggestion, I will write you a part in the Right of Wands. I will do it.
Return on investment of time. Yes. Here's your that's persuasion.
I just got to figure out what the character is here and how it's going to fit with everybody else.
Oh yeah, but you're already in my book. I already got you. I know who you are, so we're good. I see you, so you're in there. All right, my darlings, I'm gonna say goodnight, and
God bless. God bless.
Y'all have a lovely week. Be blessed, and know we love you.
Bye.